Top of the morning to you all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I see many of you in the chat that I always see. I see Matt O'Brien. Good morning to you. Fox, 92 Charlie, right here. Shout out right off the bat, Frankie Palagwachi, $9.99 to the Sal Greco Show. Plenty of cafecito to go later on for that. It says, God bless everyone. Keep shining the light, brother. No, same to you, brother. Fox, $2. Super sticker to Fox. Thank you very much. Fox, always here, by the way. Shout out to you. You're always, pushing the show. Thanks a lot for that. You got Rob, 2226. Good morning from this free state of Texas. That's right. Texas is another free state. I think a little more freer than Florida, maybe, for the moment. Lone Silencer says good morning also. And we have plenty to talk about on this show. So if you can, please hit that like, share, subscribe button if you're watching on the Sal Greco Show on YouTube, which, by the way, there'll be some changes on there. You've seen a lot of uploads. I am uploading all the old shows because I recently found out that many of them got deleted that were on another channel. So we're going to put every single episode that's ever been broadcasted of the Sal Greco Show on the Sal Greco Show YouTube channel. They're already on the Rumble channel, so bear with me. One by one, they're going up. You see, I'm up to episode 80, I believe. So I believe 159 or 150. It was like 150 and something was the last episode I did on a previous channel in a network. So we're going to get all of those in. There's about 70 something more episodes to go. So bear with me. You'll see those up one by one. So stay on the lookout for that. And also on Rumble, you go on a Rumble, the Sal Greco Show channel, like that. Rumble, hit the Rumble button there. Subscribe there if you want to be on Rumble. And, of course, on X, you could follow us on @TheSalGreco. That's my X handle. And, of course, the show is streaming live there where you can like it and share it. Especially share this out with all your friends in a low information bubble. So, with that being said, there's a few things we're going to get to right off the bat. Number one, sport case of this captain that I brought up on the last show. All right. This is a captain accused of choking a man. It's Captain Bowen from Community Affairs. I love everybody, writes all this stuff, and just everyone on internet just doesn't bring up that I had this originally for a reason. What I didn't want to tell you, which now you know public, is Mr. Bowen walked in, first of all, and they actually gave you a little more. The previous day, this 67-year-old, we'll call him pervert, he walked in on this person who had already been arrested the day prior for assaulting, and we're just going to say doing some other things to a family member of Mr. Bowen. So Mr. Bowen walked in and saw this gentleman who has no business being around a family member after being arrested for the very thing that I don't know what they're doing to get anywhere near this person. So, of course, he lost it. And, of course, he's got to arrest this person again. So I don't know if this person was arrested a second time, because that person has no business being anywhere near his family member after what happened. Remember, girl's 15 years old. 15 years old. What do you expect this captain to do? What would you expect? A family member, or we'll say someone who's directly involved, always defends their family, especially from a pervert like this. So that was the real story. Of course, they spinning it, making it. He's going to get charged with assault. But what you should know is internal affairs, Mr. Chief Thompson, Mr. I'm fraternizing with my driver, my subordinate, and all of that, and his executive doing the same thing with the PAA. All right. He decided, I'm going to suspend him. I'm going to have him arrested. He was arrested in Queens. In fact, the chief was over there, basically holding him while this chief of internal affairs, Mr. Integrity, Mr. Fraternizing, he thought of what he was going to do. Mr. I'm handpicked by the soccer mom. And that is now that whole incident should be, if anyone in Queens District Attorney's Office has a brain, that case should be dismissed. Second thing I'm going to mention here that they didn't talk about. If you don't know, this captain has a daughter, a daughter that's on the NYPD, working the NYPD right now. So they're kind of going to strangle him now. They're going to strangle him in that, you know, we have something on you. Your next of kin is in the New York City Police Department. So they'll dangle that carrot over his head. See, no one reported that. But you all now know Captain Bowen has a daughter in the NYPD. And now if he doesn't go along with whatever scheme Mr. Thompson and the soccer mom and everyone wants to put on him, now they're going to hold that dangle. You should know that that's going to happen. When they get him, they're going to try to use that against him. As if you haven't noticed that the soccer mom is a vindictive human being, and what they do is they like to go after your next of kin, the legacy, even though the next of kin has absolutely nothing to do with what you may have done, because the soccer mom's going to say, this incident has brought shame to the New York City Police Department. Meanwhile, she should be ashamed of herself. I mean, the things that she did, you know. And the next thing I was going to talk. So, guys, please get behind Captain Bowen. He's not guilty of any of this stuff. Anyone in his position would have done the exact same thing. And be on the lookout, because I know this stupid job and how they react. They're going to try to now dangle the carrot of your daughter's on the job. So if they don't hurt him, they're going to hurt her. You've seen that already. Captain Gabby Walls. They did the same thing to Jasmine Walls, right? Her daughter. That's what the whole lawsuit's about with one of these creeps I'm going to mention soon, Mr. Tim Pearson. But there's a whole thing with that. But, you know, I find it funny because talking about the soccer mom herself here, I'm reading about something. She dropped the ball with those incendiary devices last week. You know, the minute the first incident, the device was discovered, you know, the whole area should have been shut down with a bomb squad. This is the one failure that she had. And she said, you know, she was searching everything public, you know, saying everything was safe. And it wasn't, because you saw there was a bunch of potential incendiary devices and vehicles. And, you know, Bill Bratton, the former police commissioner, is one of two police commissioners in her ear. He's pushing this thing, you know, in her ear about, oh, we got to have this appearance, which is why you're seeing they pushing out Chief Edwards as the main hero. Not to say he didn't do anything wrong and that he did his job. He did. Of course, there's other people now that are going to be acknowledged, the cops. But now, yeah, they have the sanitation trucks over there for the St. Patrick's Day parade to block everything off, right? And this is what they should have done with this. But she did drop the ball with the incendiary devices. You're right. And she lied to everybody. So just wanted to put that out there because, you know, she's going to be on a witch hunt now after Captain Bowen's family, because, you know, that's what they like doing. So obviously then the big news on Friday was Jeffrey Maddrey, the former disgraced chief of department in New York City Police Department, and of course Tim Pearson, the former advisor to Eric Adams, the former illustrious mayor of New York City. They're no longer going to be represented in court by corporation counsel for their misdeeds, their, you know, sexual misconduct, all of that. So let's play this because this was breaking news.
Well, it's shaping up to be a good weekend already. It appears that New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's head of corporation counsel has announced the law department will not be representing the disgraced former chief of department Jeffrey Maddrey and former aide to New York City Mayor Eric Adams, Tim Pearson, and their numerous sexual harassment lawsuits, which even representing them for the city was in violation of the law, GMLK. They have already paid out over 640 G's for their legal defense. I don't know if they're going to get reimbursed, but good news is the taxpayers are no longer on the hook for their deviant behavior, and we'll see how this plays out in the courts.
Let's big with this is in the very beginning, I had filed things, I had sent things to city council, I sent things, and General Municipal Law 50K2 is specifically explains this law, General Municipal Law 50K2, that the Corporation Council has to consider one of the most important thing is to represent you in any kind of case. It has to fall under the scope of your duties. All right. Sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape, that doesn't fall under the scope of one's duties, whether you work in the New York City Police Department, a fire department, sanitation, you work at City Hall. But somehow the city already has paid over $630,000 worth of fees and all stuff between Jeffrey Madge, who's in a few suits, one being Captain Gabby Wall's suit, along with Scott Henderson, along with other infamous characters. Same goes for Tim Pearson. Now, Tim Pearson's involved in so many suits. Sergeant Ludeman, former retired Sergeant Ludeman. We've had John Scholar on this show. John Scholar explained those lawsuits. He's in at least 4 or 5, maybe more, sexual misconduct cases. Yet he was being represented at the time. Remember Lincoln Wrestler? He's a city councilman. Look, we don't agree, politically, but he did ask in front of a committee hearing a year ago, why is Tim Pearson being represented? Of course, Eric Adams, the mayor, so Corporation Council, he's running. And they now, under this new Corporation Council, of course, they decided to cut this off. I think this is a victory for the city, but it doesn't go far enough because there's more. There are more people involved in these lawsuits. I don't need to go through the names. The next chief of department's one of them that came right after Jeffrey Madry, an infamous deputy mayor. That clown, he's been in numerous sexual misconduct lawsuits. Eric Adams has one open. They shouldn't be represented also. It's just not Tim Pearson and Jeffrey Madry. So it's a step in the right direction. Taxpayers deserve better. So, and right here, Special Hagan says, Judge Heinz Radix lost a job for objecting to representing Pearson and even Adams. That is a fact. And I got that, again, through my own sources, that she was listening and watching this show and brought this up. And Eric Adams said, nah, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna keep going. Those are my boys. That's how Eric likes to talk. So to discuss this and more is my friend and also a co-host to the other show. But he is a warrior in the streets. You've seen me on his show, Crowdsource the Truth. So it's the one and only infamous Jason Goodman.
Thank you, Sal.
Jason dressed up for the occasion.
Well, this is the Sal Greco Show. We have to dress to impress.
I like it. A different look for you. So I want to get your take right off the bat with this Tim Pearson stuff, because this Tim Pearson law, me and you discussed this, because you, as a taxpayer in New York City, you were funding these lawsuits for sexual misconduct which occurred on duty. And I don't know why they were representing them. But, like I said, Eric Adams allowed this to happen. And then, of course, he has his own sexual misconduct lawsuit, actually a sexual assault lawsuit that the city is still defending him in. So what is your take on that? And there's still characters that are being represented by the city.
Yeah, Sal, a lot of people, I think, don't ever think about this aspect of New York City, the corporate council, and, obviously we see the NYPD out in the streets. So that's sort of the part that the public interacts with. But I've had some personal interaction with the district attorney's office and with the corporation council, and I'm extremely disappointed. I mean, the other thing that's bad from the standpoint of the individual officers, who might be watching right now, the public holds them responsible for all of these failures, when the truth is the failures begin at the top and sort of roll downhill like so many things. And so not long ago, I was down at the district attorney's office, and I couldn't help but be brought back to my days in Syosset High School. It's like a public school down there, where it's funny to say, but it's true. It does not run like the legal underpinnings of the multi-billion-dollar operation that New York City is. I'm sure if you went to the corporate counsel office for Google or, name something else that has a $113 billion budget, it would be much more competent, at least in its outward-facing appearance. The district attorney's office was a mess. It was like I was taken back to Madrid. At 1:30 they went on siesta, and you had to come back at 3 o'clock if you wanted to talk to anybody. And not only that, it's understaffed. The building is sloppy, and the attorneys walking in and out of that office were very unimpressive. So I think New York City would benefit from having probably 10, if not 100 times the number of legal, attorneys and whoever it is that's dealing with these cases. It would also allow the NYPD to do their job more effectively, because I think so many officers realize that when they arrest someone, these various, legal arms of the city government are going to either not prosecute them, not have the resources to deal with it. And so cops, there's so much downside. We heard about this captain or sergeant who you said now, obviously some guy is sexually assaulting his 15-year-old family member. That's understandable what that guy did. But now look at what's happening to him. He's caught up in the legal machinery, not the guy who's out there harassing and assaulting 15-year-old girls. So it's very troubling. But let's get to corporate counsel for a second, because I don't know if viewers of the Sal Greco Show are aware, back November 1st, 2022, when the much lauded Elon Musk was purchasing then Twitter, today X, I went there to share with him my Twitter coup report, which, remember, November 1st, 2022, the Twitter files, Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, that stuff had not been released yet. That didn't come out until 5 weeks after this incident outside Twitter's New York City office, where a certain social engineering individual was aggressively sending emails to who? Jim Baker, former FBI general counsel, who on November 1st, 2022, had become Twitter's deputy general counsel. So we were already seeing these sort of hidden connections between the FBI and social media. And here we have this outside agitator, a psychopathic lunatic who's been stalking and harassing me, my 85-year-old father, harassing my family. I understand how this captain feels. It's one thing you want to mess with me, but you're going to go after these vulnerable family members. It's sick. Anyway, that guy, that social engineer, was emailing legal at Twitter. And so rather than presenting this report to Elon Musk explaining how the FBI had illegally infiltrated Twitter and was violating everybody's Fourth Amendment rights, everybody's First Amendment rights, I got choked by a gang. One individual who showed a badge that you said resembled a New York City corrections badge. And this was 3 people attacked me, choked me. Something like 7 cars and 9 or maybe even more officers, including a lieutenant, George Ibrahim, responded to the scene. I called the police because I had been assaulted. I called 911, and then I got a ticket for disorderly conduct. Now, of course, that ticket was dismissed for being facially defective before I even said a word. That was in New York City criminal court. But then I sued the city of New York, the NYPD, those individual officers. There he is right there, Lieutenant Ibrahim. And that's where I engaged with the corporate counsel office. Now, again, rather than saying, hey, you know what? This was an unfortunate incident. The police have a lot to deal with in the street. We're going to have some kind of settlement with Mr. Goodman. Let's acknowledge that this shouldn't have happened and make some payment. No, instead, they now have been fighting me. This case is on appeal in the Second Circuit in federal court. Corporate counsel has been churning through different lawyers, and they're lying. They're saying that the police had probable cause to issue this disorderly conduct ticket because now I've presented them in court, in federal court. I've presented a 39-minute video that I recorded on my phone, and they're saying that that video gave the police probable cause. However, Lieutenant Ibrahim and none of the responding officers viewed any of that video. They looked at it for 30 seconds. They said, we can't hear this. There's no evidence of an assault. We're just giving everybody tickets. So they had no probable cause. They also said, written on the ticket, Jennifer Caruso, Officer Jennifer Caruso, who either has rosacea or was drunk that night, said to me, on the ticket, she wrote, an individual known to the department, that means one of the assailants, told the undersigned, that's talking about Caruso, that the defendant caused a public disturbance. Now, the only other person there in the public, aside from the assailants and me, was Elon Musk's personal bodyguard who was guarding the Tesla that was video recording the whole entire incident. When Caruso, on my video, asks this bodyguard, did you see anything? He says no, and he leaves. So where did she get this testimony from a member of the public that there was a public disturbance if the only member of the public said he heard nothing and he was standing 5 feet away? So there was no probable cause. The corporate counsel's office retroactively lied to defend the police officers rather than defending me, the New York City citizen, the crime victim, the smoothie king of the NYPD, Officer Chandler Castro, who previously was employed at Smoothie King, laughed in my face when the officers first responded. Before I said anything, I said I got choked. He stood there laughing. I said, what the hell are you laughing at? I'm a crime victim. I mean, think about that. It's absurd, Sal.
It's your story, and of course, he has this. If that lawsuit is still pending, is just a microcosm of what it's like in order to deal with some of them. And there's a lot of stuff like this. We're about to get into some of that stuff too. I mean, Eric Sanders in the chat says utter nonsense, no probable cause. So he agrees with you too. You can see the video. I believe it's somewhere on your X feed where this incident happened, and you could judge for yourselves. I mean, it's crazy how that went down, and then they blamed you for the whole thing. So, but before that, I want to show this video. One last thing about this Tim Pearson and Jeffrey Madry thing. Julie Menon, who's the Speaker of the City Council, she had this to say about, no longer defending them in court.
The 9/11 files, as you know, this is something that is very important to the City Council. The fact that the city has sat on these 9/11 files for years, the fact that thousands of people became sick and died of cancer because the city did not disclose the fact that the air was not safe to breathe, in conjunction with the federal EPA and former EPA head Christy Todd Whitman. So my question is, and I had asked this during the confirmation hearing, what is the status of the release of the 9/11 files?
Thank you for that question. I can report that since I was confirmed a couple of weeks ago, we have set up a team that is reviewing what documents can be posted on a portal to provide access to the public and the cost for maintaining such public access, and what documents cannot be posted. For example, documents with personal information or individuals such as medical information. We're also looking at the cost of determining what documents cannot be posted. We will keep you posted on what we are doing, but that's what we've done the last several weeks, and we're working on this very hard.
That's very interesting. Very interesting what she said.
Well, wait a minute, Sal. Wait a second. So right there, we see the city of New York is concerned about the cost of maintaining a website to present the public with information about maybe the most serious event to happen in the United States since Pearl Harbor, maybe even more serious. But I mean, they can't spend $19.99 a month with GoDaddy, but they're going to spend thousands of dollars on lawyers making up nonsense that they had probable cause to have somebody strangle me.
Yeah, and how about not saying anything about representing people for sexual misconduct in the city? And
it's very cost conscious when it comes to 9/11 websites.
And very recently, two officers that are assigned to guard her from the NYPD were involved in a frat house where the inspector, Rana, now admits that, he knew about the frat house activity while he's supposed to be guarding her. And then he gets rewarded. He's now in another part. He's in counterterrorism. Instead of is he going to get punished? Wow. And just so people know, So this captain we're talking about, Captain Bowen, his daughter's name is Susie Bowen. She's in the 112 precinct. Please make sure that nothing happens to her in the New York City Police Department and being transferred or undesired assignments, all of that nonsense, because that's what happens when now they're looking at her father who did the right thing and they're going to say he brought shame to the police department. That's the mantra here. But so I'm going to actually now to chime in on everything. There she is. To chime in on everything, we're going to have now to add to this discussion. He's the producer. He's the co-host. He's the wingman, the one and only Jack Stern.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. And Jason, I'm very sorry to hear about what's going on with your lawsuit and how the police officers laughed at you. But what can you do? Yeah, it's really an amazing time to be in New York City government, because we come to find out that there's millions of dollars being hidden from us. And even as Mamdani's threatening to raise property taxes, we could be cutting costs in other areas. But unfortunately, with the negligent spending that's gone on for decades, Jason, it's almost like it's acceptable to just spend $1 million on a lawyer for Jeffrey Madry and Tim Pearson and to be spending money on all these other things when other costs are being neglected, right? Because that's the culture of New York City government nowadays.
Yeah. And
Well, obviously, that's what they want to do. They're doing it, and you bring up a good point, Jack. That's the one area we hear Mamdani giving these press conferences talking about raising property tax, which is already, I think, one of the highest in the country. He never once talks about cracking down on corruption or leaky spending or any of these nonprofits that the city is giving millions and millions of dollars to. People remember my other recent incident with the, what was it, Midtown South? Sal, what is that, the 14th precinct, where the detective squad was acting like Bart Simpson, telling me that Hugh Johnson was going to come meet me at the Walcott Hotel, where I observed and video recorded individuals who looked to me like gang members doing some kind of transaction around a 1-year-old baby. They thought this was hilarious. So, I mean, the things that they prioritize, and oh, by the way, that hotel security there for the migrants who were doing these transactions was being coordinated by the Neighborhood Association of Intercultural Affairs, which received, I think the number was 9 million or something like that from the city of New York, a nonprofit that was paying its embezzler CFO $660,000, $400,000 more than the CEO, who had no idea that the guy was a convicted felon, convicted for embezzling $110,000 from another nonprofit who entered a plea deal. What I'm told, people know Charles Ortel is an expert in nonprofit investigations and very, well studied in nonprofit law. He tells me when someone's been convicted like that, one of the normal punishments is that you're never allowed to be involved in another nonprofit. Not that you get paid 3 times as much as the CEO. Sal, you did a lot of coverage of the straw donor scandal with Eric Adams. It begs the question, was this guy, Richard Izquierdo Arroyo, the CFO of the Neighborhood Association of Intercultural Affairs, was he paying out money to people who were doing this type of straw donor campaign contributions to Eric Adams? It needs to be investigated, and Mamdani is not doing that.
No, you know why? Because Mamdani has his own straw donor scandal. That was another thing we were uncovering, but nobody bothered looking into it. And he's chummy with the president. Email Bo, whoever, email Bo, the ghost of email Bo will pop up, or Todd Blanche. Oh, everything's okay. Everything's all right. And I just want to add that I saw Eric Sanders in the comments right here before mentioning Bowen's legal rights were definitely violated. More to come soon. So NYPD, I'm sure you'll be hearing from Eric, which I know you guys love so much, especially the soccer mom. So, that case is to be continued, but we're going to be on it because that man should not be put through the ringer for defending his own family from a predator. So that will to be alleged predator will to be continued. But Jack, I know we were gonna spin into this. What happened over the weekend? I saw a bunch of protests, and I want to get in this because Jason is. If people don't know Jason's his work on Crowdsource the Truth, he would go around and he used to be in the thick of everything, whether there be a riot, a protest. He covered, I mean, he ran into Zohran Mamdani while he was campaigning for mayor at a Tesla protest. So just so you know, Jason's in the middle of everything, but he uncovered along the way. We would talk about social engineers. He's going to describe this. So just show everyone a little bit, Jack, of what happened this weekend, or explain these protests that you saw, that it looks staged to be staged. I don't know what else to say, but go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, so there were protests in New York City all weekend in Midtown by the Trump Tower regarding the war that's being fought in Iran. And I have a hard time believing, Jason, we'll get into it when we watch the video in a second, but I have a hard time believing that all of the people who showed up are genuinely that concerned about civil advocacy, to the point where they're at the George Floyd protest, they're at Asian activism protests, now they're protesting in favor of Iran. I have trouble believing they care so much naturally about all of these causes that they just show up there. Oh, and in addition to showing up, they're advertising their initiative on X Spaces, they're doing interviews on television. It's a little bit questionable, to say the least. So let's just take a look at what happened over the weekend, and then we'll react.
USA! 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 USA!
I mean, like, can we just stop this for the second? Like, this guy looks like someone at the World Baseball Classic cheering for Team USA for the Dominican Republic last night. How can anyone take him seriously? He's not even talking about what's going on in the war. He's just doing some reckless chant and trying to get attention from everyone there. All right, let's continue.
Let's go! Hey, we look at each other as human beings, not as color, not as faith.
And this guy has a New York accent too. He's clearly not from the Middle East, right? But he cares so much about the people that he has to advocate for them.
Not as religion. We say, who are you and what can we do to bring all of us together? And that's what this fight is for. And Islam is against everything that we believe in. They want to bully you. They want to beat you. They want to torture you. They want to bring you down. They want to call women and look at them as they call them in the Quran that they are half brains. And we tell you that my mother has got more intelligence in her toe than her little baby.
So listen to the rhetoric there. That's all we need to see. I don't need to listen to that guy screaming. Listen to his tone. They want to hurt you. They want to kill your family. They are not as good as your grandmother or your mother. I didn't even understand what he was saying. But either way, he's not going into the specifics of the war and why we're fighting the war. He does not know anything about the oil supply or our relationship with Israel or President Trump's relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu. They did not say one single thing about the war itself. All it was ad hominem attacks with baseless claims and no factual information. Jason, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Jason, please explain social engineering, the whole concept behind that, because there's a lot to it. And look, I mean, is Talia Jane there? Was Crackhead? These are people that Jason has run into, by the way. The floor is yours, Jason.
And now they're taking selfies with, I mean, come on.
Right. And I mean, frequently with the Israeli flag, you're going to see Oren and Ronan Levi. Now, those guys are from Israel, so it makes sense that they would be supporting Israel at a protest. But as you said, Sal, I think Jack, you brought it up, the diversity of interests that these people have. It seems to be, whatever is the opposite side of what Trump and Trump supporters are on. And, look, I don't want to just take one side in this, because to me, it seems like both sides are controlled. And Sal, you used to frequently talk about, I guess it was John Schell who would talk about controlling the narrative. And I think that is what most of these protests are about. Frankly, even Olia Scootercaster and Freedom News TV, this is somebody who came from Ukraine, and, within the 10-year span that I've been doing Crowdsource the Truth, she appeared she gets an NYPD, or sorry, it's no longer issued by the NYPD. They come from City Hall. But these press passes, I absolutely object to the concept of a press pass. The freedom of the press is part of the First Amendment, and every single person in the United States enjoys that. The analogy that I've often made, if you go to your grandmother's house and there's a photograph on the refrigerator and you say, who was the photographer? It was your grandmother. Taking a photograph, the very function of doing that makes you a photographer. You don't have to study under Ansel Adams or get some kind of a degree or a license or a diploma. And likewise, going and reporting on public interest matters, it's journalism. The woman who recorded George Floyd, if you happen to be an eyewitness to 9/11, anything at all that happens, you go down to the court and shout a question at Alan Dershowitz when he's coming out of a Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit, you are reporting on public information. Now, I can understand that the NYPD has a need to control crowds, and when there are press conferences, there's limited space. So perhaps issuing attendance vouchers or tickets or something on a first come, first served basis could be justified. But I just object to the concept of a press pass because it grants the NYPD or the city of New York an opportunity to give out licenses to who may or may not report on these things. And it's very interesting. I've been to these protests. People may recall 2 or 3 years ago, there was a protest right over here near where I live on my block, 2 blocks away from my apartment at FIT. When we had all this Columbia riots and everything going on, there was a gathering, sort of a menagerie of morons who were out there having a pro-Hamas protest. And I just was walking down the street, took out my phone, started recording. They took one look at me. I didn't say a word. And they said, "Oh, you're a Zionist." They surrounded me. They began intimidating me. One guy with a keffiyeh wrapped around his face was trying to poke me in the eye with a Palestinian flag and the wood pole from the flag. I kept my eyes on this guy. I was getting a vibe from him. And the keffiyeh came down from his face at one moment. I was zoomed fully in. I think I got a 5X zoom on the camera. And I did, out of, many seconds or even minutes of video, capture 1 or 2 clear frames of his face. And the next day in the New York Post, it was reported that a suspected or alleged Venezuelan gang member had been arrested for being involved in, moped muggings and was at Rikers Island. And he looked exactly like the guy who had been harassing me at this protest. So the following day, I was walking down the street and I saw some NYPD guys outside of the New School where another one of these protests was happening, including a white shirt lieutenant. I don't remember his name. I mentioned the incident to him. I showed him the New York Post article on my phone. I showed him the video of the guy on my phone. And I said, "Doesn't this look like the same guy?" And the lieutenant said to me, "It's a remarkable resemblance." And I said, "Okay, so I want to report this. What is this guy who's supposedly a prisoner at Rikers Island? What is he doing at a protest?" The lieutenant asked for my driver's license. I said, "Wait a minute. The last time I gave a lieutenant my driver's license, I got a ticket for disorderly conduct and wound up in criminal court. So why do you need my information? This is all public stuff. Go investigate it. I'm telling you, this guy, Victor Parra, suspected Venezuelan gang member, was at a protest outside FIT last night. Here he is in the New York Post. I'll email you this photograph of him, but I'm not giving you my information." So the guy said, "Oh, we're trying to help you. You don't want to." So it's like, if I won't, you can't give anonymous tips to the police anymore, and they go investigate, remarkable resemblances of suspected criminals. They don't investigate that.
Yeah, you have also had issues with what's his name, Matola, right? That was another guy from Community Affairs. You've run into him. I'm trying to explain this. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to what Jason's trying to say. Is a lot of this stuff is socially engineered, especially from the protest angle, going back to 2020 and beyond. Occupy Wall Street.
Sorry, forgive me for interrupting, but let me tie this together. I forgot about the social engineering aspect. My suspicion is the police or someone at Rikers Island says, "Hey, Parra, We need somebody who's willing to do violence on the streets, who we can disassociate ourselves from if Jason Goodman gets his eye poked out or stabbed in the throat, and just say, oh, we don't know this guy. He's a criminal. And I think the police hire these people or make some sort of arrangement with them, whether it's through a plea deal or just, we're going to let you out of this filthy prison, but here's what you need to do. And they're out in the street rolling around. This guy Para, he's not some high level undercover, or maybe he is, he's in the Venezuelan gang. But the point is, the police, whether it's Oren Levi, Victor Para, Ronan Levi, Unisco Wahalakano, who is Crackhead Barney, our buddy there, Walter Masterson with his friend Gonzo with the Muppet Show bomb, the Wile E. Coyote bomb. I think all of this is theater, Rand Paul, as a certain diminutive doctor would say. This is street theater designed to, do I don't know what, frighten the public, keep people off the streets,
create
civil unrest, demonstrate that the police can arrest. So you said something very important, Sal, that the soccer mom dropped the ball, that the bomb squad should have shut down that entire area. Absolutely. By the way, that seemed obvious to me. Someone is walking around New York City with a bomb and you just say, oh, we arrested the guy. It was a dud, nothing to worry about. You would imagine remember they had that break-in on 44th Street or whatever it was, where the guy ran up to the 33rd floor and shot somebody in the NFL or whatever he did. They closed down like 10 blocks.
Yep.
For
You
hours.
were fire. Remember, you were trying to get in there. They weren't even allowed.
You have a bomb. They don't do anything. That to me suggests that they knew that was a Muppet Show, Wile E. Coyote bomb that they put there to have a big viral news item where we arrested the guy and, we don't know this guy, Walter Masterson, even though every time Jason shows up and starts screaming, arrest this guy, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's a January 6th dressing up like a Trump supporter, telling his friend, you have to go in disguise or the people we're trying to deceive aren't going to believe you. They don't arrest him. They take him out of those situations. He's there amplifying sound through a megaphone without a permit, and they're telling me to stop yelling.
Yeah, see, and this is what I'm saying. Why I wanted Jason on for this reason, to explain this entire protest. I mean, a lot of people here, and I saw in the chat before, I believe Lone Silence said, they're tired of this stuff. It's one thing, we're talking about the 60s, Martin Luther King, all that stuff. That was very organic. This seems socially engineered from the top.
But do we know? I wasn't there. Could have been the same thing. The family of Martin Luther King ultimately won a civil lawsuit against the U.S. government and determined that there was a conspiracy to kill him. Ole Damagard did a whole series on the assassination of Martin Luther King, where he claims Jesse Jackson participated in the assassination.
I think, the whole protest thing, it's got out of hand. I know I saw Ilby Eyecatch. Shout out to you. He's in the chat also. He was mentioning how, he thinks also the pro-Palestine chat, the pro-Palestine people, it's all one big thing, and it's funded by George Soros Foundation. I think there's other people. I think it's more than just at this point, you're looking at this and going, this whole thing has to be engineered from the top, because out of the 2020 riots, what did you get? You got a protest settlement agreement in New York that absolutely handcuffs the police department and being proactive, right? So somebody engineered that, because if you keep pushing that envelope forward, you're ripping open that envelope. Now you got what we have. So now there's really, if you were to go into these protests, Jason, you've really taken, you might take your life in your own hands getting in the middle of showing what's going on, like you did that time with Tesla. If you go back, you go on Jason's on his X, or go on his YouTube, Crowdsource the Truth. There's plenty of channels you could watch. When he went to Tesla about a year ago, he ran into Zohran Mamdani, and there were these people with the orange or red outfit on, like they had some kind of it looked like a thing you would wear if you're trying to. Yeah, it was like a vest or something, and all these people started surrounding him. When he gets over to Zohran Mamdani, who starts answering the questions, and then one guy starts following him around, and it's a group of them, and they're all wearing these shirts. And then we found out that I believe They're part of an organization as well. So the whole thing was constructed by someone engineering it, which is why the social engineering thing, where at first people would say, that's nothing. I'm starting to look at it and go, no, this is as unorganic as it gets. It's clearly engineered from someone, somewhere, or a group of people to get their objective. I think 2020 riots got you a lot of these protest settlement agreements. You got a lot of these police departments defunded. You got areas where, like Minnesota, where there's like barely any police anymore. And then you had ICE come in, all this other nonsense. And it's all due to this one incident. There it is. That's when he met.
This 3 weeks in a row. How many New York City businesses could tolerate to close their location 3 weeks in a row? This is an economic attack on Tesla. How can you sanction this? You will never be mayor. This is not the use of the First Amendment. This is, step away from me. Don't advance towards me like that. Yeah, you did. You just came up to me in a threatening manner and you're advancing towards me. Back up.
Look at that guy. That guy's like your size, comes over, body checks me. Unbelievable, right?
He follows you.
New.
And there was a group of those guys. It wasn't just, and this was before Mamdani got there. They were there already in front of Tesla. If you watch this whole video, you guys will see that it was like an entire group, and they're all wearing some kind of red or orange, like it's the same outfit, and that's how they coordinate with each other. And they were following Jason before and after this incident, and they were all embedded in this little protest that was then, we found out was, I believe it was an organization that was involved with that. But the whole thing, again, socially engineered. And Mamdani's in the middle. You can't even get two words with him. Then all of a sudden, he doesn't have any bodyguards. So
their intersectionality of all of these protests is what has me the most suspicious, because when you looked at the protests in Minneapolis in regards to the two citizens who were killed by ICE agents, it all of a sudden became an initiative to try and impeach President Trump. Jason, when you were at the protest by the Tesla building, Mamdani was bad-mouthing President Trump and talking badly about Elon Musk because he just so happens to be the owner of Tesla. So that's one of the things that has me suspicious, is that there's so many different components that get dragged into all of these protests. And I would have to say as well, guys, that 2020 was probably like a watershed moment when it came to protesting, because before that, it wasn't as big of a deal, but now protests are being a lot more publicized and there's a lot more attention on them. And as a result, there's a lot more foreign influence as well. So that's why we're seeing some of these characters kind of getting involved. And in regards to the bomb allegation that you made, Jason, about how things were kind of choreographed and televised beforehand, I do think that those claims have some merit, especially with, having the benefit of hindsight here. It does look suspicious that the chiefs kind of all looked at the bomb and no one drew their firearm and they all reacted very slowly, in the same way that the Charlie Kirk killing now looks suspicious for a number of different reasons that we'll cover on a different episode. But, it's just a weird time to be alive. And going forward, I think there's going to be a lot more protests that are planned with all of these bad actors, because they make headlines and they're the ones who get everyone riled up. So they're the ones that we're all going to be focusing on naturally, right?
But it's always the same.
Let's just talk for a minute more about the social engineering at this Zoran Mamdani incident. So first of all, I was telling him that I felt it was not First Amendment activity. It was the intimidation of Tesla and Tesla customers and the shutting down of a business, which was an economic assault. If they wanted to go to the park and talk about it, that would be all right. But to show up and make it impossible for Tesla to do business is a different thing. So this girl who came over and told him, don't talk to this guy or whatever she said, she's wearing a T-shirt that says Planet Over Profit, which sounds like a good thing. Planet Over Profit is this. It purports to be, some sort of a nonprofit. It wants you to support them by sending them money. Here we've got this, contributions will go to Planet Over Profit, but they don't really tell you who that is that the money goes to. Planet Over Profit, it's not a 501c3. It doesn't have an EIN. It's a very suspicious organization. I don't know exactly who owns it, runs it, is in charge of it, what its legal status is as an organization, but it's not a registered 501c3, 501c4, nothing like that.
Which gives you, again, we start thinking, again, it's constructed how?
Just funneling money to things.
It's social engineered. That's what I'm trying to tell people. is when you hear that, whether it's Soros or this one or that one, and names you always hear, it's socially engineered. It's constructed in
This
a
is
way.
a business, Sal. Someone is, they're not taking 100% of that money. They're selling T-shirts. They're collecting money on that website. New York City is worried how much it costs to run a website to tell you about 9/11. These guys have a fundraising website. People are sitting in an office somewhere getting paid by that.
By a lot. They make a lot of money too. They raise a lot of money for this stuff. And you could tell by, the personnel they have walking around. Like I said, you could tell in 2 instances, Jason's getting body checked by and they're all part of this non-prop, whatever. I don't even know what this is. But I remember watching this video live on a Saturday, I believe it was, and saying, they're like literally following Jason around, and there's mom.
Sal, the other reason it's not First Amendment activity, you can go to Washington Square Park and say Elon Musk is this and that, Donald Trump is this and that, that's fine. But when you start carrying signs that say burn a Tesla, that is a direct and explicit incitement to violence, and that is no longer protected by the First Amendment. I directly questioned NYPD officers about that. They wouldn't even address it. What should be said is you need to throw away that sign or leave, because you can't be here inciting people to violence at a protest. That's where the First Amendment ends. I'm not suggesting someone should be immediately arrested for having that sign, but the police should instruct them that is not First Amendment activity. In the same way, they should instruct them, you can't block the sidewalk outside of Tesla. You can't surround these cars that are approaching Tesla. You're intimidating people. Your First Amendment right ends where assault, harassment, menacing begin. You can't just go there and shut down the business. That's not First Amendment.
No, well, they allow that though. And also criminal mischief when they break cars, break items.
Right.
But Mottola tells you, Mr. Mottola from Community Affairs, that and then he's talking to crackhead Barney on the side. You're like, what's going on?
It's a classic bait and switch technique that I was just talking about too, Jason, because they bring you there to protest Tesla, and then they talk about the climate. Like, they clearly are reeling you in so they can go into detail about something else and to lobby for a different initiative, which is really part of the problem with protesting nowadays too. It's like, if you're going to go protest something, go and protest it peacefully. Don't show up, cause a commotion, and then immediately pivot to the next thing, because that proves that you have an agenda.
But not only that, Jack, how are you a climate advocate who's protesting Tesla? I mean, again, I'm not a scientist, but I suppose if you wanted to protest Tesla as a climate advocate, you'd have to explain to me how the manufacturing process, the chemical extraction of lithium or whatever else there is in batteries is somehow worse for the climate than the, drilling for and processing of and burning of oil and gasoline. Now, again, I'm not taking a side on either side of that argument. I'm sure Ford or whoever is making internal combustion engines, BMW, Porsche, they could probably explain to you how very, very efficient internal combustion engines are better than manufacturing battery cars. But that's not the argument that they're making. They're just protesting Tesla because they dislike Elon Musk. I think most climate advocates prefer electric cars because the idea is the batteries can be recycled, and if they're manufactured properly, it is perhaps a more sustainable use of energy.
No, listen, listen, this thing it's got my blood boiling seeing all these protests over and over again. I see them all over the country. It's the same characters, the same stuff. Nobody does anything. I understand it's First Amendment right, but then it spins into what you're seeing. A lot of damage, money, things have been destroyed in the city, and no one's ever really held accountable. And then when you arrest people, I remember the Molotov cocktail people they threw and they firebombed a van. They were attorneys. They
lawyers. Right.
They were lawyers. And nothing. What happened to them? They got a slap on the wrist. Whereas if you or I or anyone else decides that, hey, we're going to fire burn, we're going to jail forever. So that's, again.
You might get out to participate in a Hamas protest. Not forever.
Yeah, they'll get out in time for the Hamas thing. But I want to move on to something else before I get into the break here. But Jack, you have a video. I believe Tucker Carlson. There's a lot going on with Tucker Carlson, who I'm going to tell you I unequivocally always support, because Tucker had me on his show at a time when, not too many doors were open. So I never forget that. Unlike on some people, loyalty means something to me. So, Jack, what happened with Tucker?
Yeah, so we all know about the divide that's happening right now in the MAGA movement between Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're kind of going against this coalition of President Trump, Laura Loomer, and several other whack jobs from the right, including Mark Levine as well. But recently, Tucker Carlson revealed that he's being investigated by the Department of Justice, and now people are very upset. This is the first 30 seconds of a video he posted on Saturday night, which now has 25 million views on social media.
So the other day I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power, unlike a lot of people commenting on.
So yeah, Tucker's obviously revealing that the Department of Justice is investigating him for getting in contact with the Middle East prior to the war happening. He sounded the alarm on this war for a very long time and said we should not be at war with Iran. We should not go to war with the Middle East again. He even compared it to both the playbook that George H.W. Bush and George Bush employed and said this is the wrong path to go down. But now it seems like this is political persecution because he obviously has the platform that he has. He speaks out against the president, but because he has a very powerful voice in manipulating public opinion, it seems like they're going after him to try and make an example out of him. What say you guys?
No, you go first, Jason.
I mean, I don't want to. I disagree, Sal, with your opinion of Tucker Carlson, so I don't want to insult him on your show, but, he's taken material from me to defend Alan Dershowitz, which I found very not good. And his father was in the CIA. He's received funding from this guy, what's his name, Malik. And by the way, I'm not singling him out. This 1789
this is a free speech
Capital,
platform. Everyone gives their opinion.
Yeah, 1789 Capital, which maybe you guys have heard of. This is an investment, a venture capital firm. First of all, I mean, look who's involved as one of the principals is Donald Trump Jr., but it's this guy, Omid Malik is the main guy here. And he's invested quite a lot of money in Tucker Carlson's, independent podcasting network or whatever it is. So there's a lot of strange money incidents. I mean, Sal and Jack, you guys run a show that's very similar to mine. The only people who sponsor Crowdsource the Truth and give me money are the individual viewer sponsors who go to Patreon and subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and to Substack and who watch External Affairs with Sal Greco and sponsor that show. I don't want some Middle Eastern business person writing me a check for $1 million or, one of the reasons I started Crowdsource the Truth, a lot of people know I used to be in the motion picture production business. I was a visual effects cinematographer and a stereoscopic imaging specialist. And one of the last projects I did was a ride film in Dubai called Daydreams of Dubai. And when we were done and I came back to New York, the Emirati client decided they didn't want to pay. And so I lost like $250,000.
Jeez.
And I just couldn't even afford to pay the insurance on my equipment that year, had paid the crew, had paid for plane tickets and all kinds of things. And at that moment, I said, it basically drove 21st Century 3D out of business. And I said to myself, I'd rather have 200,000 people paying me $1 each than one person paying me 200,000 because there's no way 200,000 people all at once are going to decide not to pay the dollar. And you get on the line with this one sponsor, whatever it is that you're doing, and you find yourself beholden to that person. So again, I don't mean to speak badly. I appreciate what you're saying. Sal, Tucker had you on his show at a time that you were really being held down by the NYPD, and that was good of him to do. But I don't care for Tucker Carlson for my own reasons.
Yeah, he took an interest in my whole case with everything, and of course, he's good friends with Roger too, with Roger Stone. Roger's my friend, and he took he didn't have to do that. He could have said, "Who cares?" His network is so big, Fox, and he took a police officer story, my story, and make and talking about that. So, but I see this. He's been getting attacked by the same exact people we always talk about. Is certain people that keep attacking him that also are little social engineers themselves, apparently online or a part of a network or something, because it's almost like, I've said this before. I mentioned with the conservatives, we had DC Drano, where he would post something, and then 7 other guys that have conservative following, they all post the same thing within seconds of each other.
Don't deny that.
Word by word.
It's like warring factions, right?
Yeah. And you say to yourself, what the hell's going on here? So I see the same thing happening to him, only they're taking this to another level. Now it's the CIA is keeping it, all because they might
believe that too.
And these people are dirty. That CIA, these people, what are you doing even? Tucker Carlson's an American citizen. He's not in office. He's a journalist.
Supportive in that. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing.
What they could do, Jason, is they could do that to you or I or Jack.
Oh, I know. And they do.
And
the
that's
FBI, the DHS, the CIA. I agree. So let me clarify my point. I'm not saying that it's okay that the CIA or whoever do this to Tucker Carlson. I'm just saying, if we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson, I got to lead with, why did he steal my footage to defend Alan Dershowitz about this? The government can inject you with a vaccine. I super hated that.
Yeah, I remember.
No, you certainly bring up a good point, Jason, and we understand where you're coming from. The thing is, though, I mean, listen, a lot of people on social media nowadays are funded by foreign influencers. Let's just call it what it is, right? So in a world where a lot of people are receiving money from that pot,
not us. No, not us.
No, not us. We're not funded by these foreign interest groups. But in a world where there's a lot of foreign influence, and it seems like a lot of these people on social media have come out in favor of the Iran war, it's nice to see people like Tucker Carlson who have kind of a contrasting viewpoint. Now, the point you just made, Jason, about 1789 and that person who's funding Tucker who has connections to Don Jr., that makes you wonder if all of this is just one big WWE show, and they're not.
Yes.
And they're not actually going to end up investigating Tucker at all. They just said they were, to try and create a storyline that we're now all talking about that's distracting us from everything else going on.
You mentioned something, because somebody over the weekend, it was saying, I think Mike Cernovich wrote something about it. It said, like, the only reason anyone's talking about it is somebody went online and started writing about it on X, and you got engagement for him. And they're trying to say, well, they should take the monetization program away from X. But it only favors the same social engineer. Again, it's the same problem we're having.
You know what's interesting, Sal? There's a guy who I've become sort of DM friends with who's producing a lot of AI content. You remember when this C-Dance 2.0, this Chinese model that's able to reproduce actors and everything, there was a Star Wars meme where Natalie Portman says, oh, we're going to cure cancer with all these data centers, right? And then they cut to a wide shot and he's made her breasts gigantic. That's this guy, Charles Curran, very talented AI visual effects artist. And he posted the other day. Now, granted, that video got 14 million views. He's had other videos that have gotten 2 million views, 1 million views. He posted that in February, the first 2 weeks of February, he got a nearly $4,000 payout from X. And then the last 2 weeks of February, he got a $26,000 payout from X. Now, you mentioned earlier, Jack, the Charlie Kirk assassination. The week after the Charlie Kirk assassination, when I identified video evidence that I believe contained drones in a video shot by Adam Bartholomew from his Life is Driving Twitter account, I daily, Sal, you saw this every day, 2 million views, 2.7 million views, 1.5 million views. I had 5, 6, 7 tweets in a row that were breaking 2 million. And I've never gotten more than $400 from X in a given payout.
Yeah.
So there seems to be some discrepancy between millions of views and $400 and many more millions of views. I mean, it's not like I got 4,000 and this guy got 20,000. I got 400 to his 30,000. It just seems imbalanced at first glance. And this is a financial black box. Elon Musk can pay whatever amount to whoever he wants. You have no idea how much it is. So ChatGPT, I've been using a lot. And it was like, hey, man, first it says to me, it's like, oh, you got to come back, in a week because you're out of credits. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like, well, you got $40. And I was like, what is this? It was like a shakedown from ChatGPT. So I gave it the $40 and then it was like, all right, now you're out of credits again. You got to get a pro plan. And I was like, what? What the hell are you talking about? And like, well, you're going to get 6 times as many credits and this and that. And I was like, wait a minute, how does it work out that $20 a month, you get this many credits, and for 10 times as much money, you get 6 times as many credits? It's like, well, it's like at the used car lot or something. What the hell is this ChatGPT?
Yeah, I know. I said the same thing, but I think that's what really, the whole thing derived off the internet. They made a big deal over it because people want to get clicks. They get all these views, and that's basically, that's how this thing works. It's a social engineering project. There's people on top and then they divide the money amongst themselves. It's all this is.
There has to be like a meticulous planning involved too. Like if the war in Iran generates enough publicity, okay, Tucker, you're going to go ahead and make this video saying that the Department of Justice is investigating you, even though we're not really going to investigate you. We just want attention on you for a little while. Like there's a lot of planning between the higher powers involved, and it seems like they're in collaboration with one another more than they're against each other.
Right. Chronicles of the Collapse says, Jason, your interview with Dershowitz was mind-blowing and belongs in the annals of the COVID history. So you do. I mean, I did watch that too. I remember when it happened. I used to watch everything live when I was still in the police department. I did want to pivot to something now. So, Jack, I guess it's a good time to tell everybody to go to Free Spoke because we were talking about a lot of your search engines. You should go to Free Spoke. There's a new... You got to go on there. You go to https:/freespoke.referral rock.com// or L, I don't know, either or, /Salvatore G59. That's where you get your discount to go to Free Spoke. Also, if you're Italian American, IACRL.org, you could join the Italian American Civil Rights League. And we had a big event in Florida over here in Fort Lauderdale. We honored Roger Stone. It was a big event at Casa Calabria. There'll be more to come. So if you're Italian American, you could join that. And then, of course, I kind of fixed salgreco.com. So if you want us, this is the way you support us, just the way Jason said. Go to salgreco.com. This is the store. And I just added a couple of things there. You can see all those shirts, but right there on the left and the top, that's a Joe Cop shirt. We had a lot of Joe Cops coming on, and with their hairbag rhetoric and all that nonsense. You could be a Joe Cop yourself now. You want to be a hairbag, and here you go. You could rep it out. And
comes in different colors too.
It comes in different colors and all shapes inside. I believe it's like $25 the shirt. It doesn't tell you that. It tells you in the frame of it. But you go to salgreco.com, go to the store. I have this is the newest item. Get your Joe Cop shirt. Obviously the Fugazi shirt, if you remember a certain mayor. He's a total Fugazi that was running for office. Obviously the classic Sal Greco, the Nothing Wrong. We have also mugs. There you go. There's the Sal Greco Show mug. Now, what would be better watching this show and not having your coffee in the mug, right? You can also have that. The Sal Greco did nothing wrong. That you can have that mug as well. But this is the way, this is how you go forward. You can help us out. You go to the store. You also could click the support button, whatever you can, if you want to help us out. I mean, I'm involved in 2 lawsuits, and I'm trying to do things with the show. Jason can tell you it's not easy. We don't have Mr. Malik there funding everything with Donald Trump Jr. This is the way we do it. the way we do it here is this is the way it's got to be done. You support the show through, go to salgreco.com, go to support. You feel like, leaving a nice little donation, recurring donation. I'm trying to do things here, but it's not easy when all your money's tied up in lawsuits. And of course, we have items coming. We have shirts, we have mugs. There'll be more to come, but that's just to, and I got a lot of requests for the Joe Cop shirt. So now you could be a Joe Cop too and represent the brand as well.
Yeah, this is just scratching the surface as well. We're going to have a lot more material in the weeks to come, including a Con Sofrito shirt, a workout training one. And if you guys have any ideas about designs that you want to see, feel free to send them to us as well. We're always open to taking suggestions. And we're men of the people too. So we do exactly what you guys want. If there's any shirts or mugs or sweaters or hoodies or sandals, if you like to go to the beach and you live in warm weather like we do. So yeah, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Con Sofrito. You got to say it right.
My acento was not perfect.
You got the now defunct, disgraceful place that was open with all that Michigas going on there. Before you leave, Jason, I was going to hit you with this one. We discussed this the other day. Michael Cohen, a disgraced attorney, no longer practicing in New York City, involved in Trump land, got thrown out because he tried to testify, all this other nonsense. He literally has been on The View. He's been on all these shows. And then lo and behold, he starts saying, I was coerced into things. Do you see this on the screen? Is that not Michael Cohen with Laura Trump? Laura Trump, meaning the daughter-in-law of one President Trump. How are you? What's going on here, Jason? How did this become Michael Cohen, which you also exposed a few things about him as well? What are you looking at here? What are we looking at? Why is this going on? I mean, seems like WWE stuff.
Yeah, I can't explain that with Laura Trump. I mean, the Michael Cohen being coerced, I believe that. I mean, that was my conclusion before he said it. When I was chasing down Norm Eisen outside the Stormy Daniels trial, that's what I said to him. We had Robert, I think is his first name, Costello, the attorney who initially met with Michael Cohen. See, there was more to that. I was trying to interview Mr. Costello, but he wasn't interested. I mean, he's a working attorney. He's an older guy. He's not interested in being on social media or getting more involved in this than he's legally required to. But Michael Cohen had approached Costello about representing him, about Costello representing Cohen, because Michael Cohen told Costello that his office had been raided by the FBI and that he was going to kill himself and he didn't know what to do and this and that. And just from listening to that story and knowing what I knew about Michael Cohen and the surrounding context, I suggested to Mr. Costello that Cohen was actually targeting Costello, that they wanted to wrap Costello up in this to get Costello jammed up so that they could force Costello to testify against Rudy Giuliani. Because Costello was one of the attorneys in the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office when Rudy Giuliani was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. And we know they were hard on Rudy Giuliani. They got him eventually, but the way these high-level lawfare operations, which, by the way, lawfare is a form of social engineering. It's manipulating the law and, weaponizing it in the same way that what we're talking about is weaponizing social media and the news, traditional media. That's more Tucker Carlson. But, there's a spectrum here. So I believe what was happening is they were trying to wrap up Costello. Luckily, Costello was too smart to fall for this, and he eventually exploded in their hands like a hand grenade you pull the pin out of and forget to throw. But what he basically said in that Stormy Daniels trial was that Michael Cohen had paid Stormy Daniels out of his own money. Cohen took out a home equity line of credit. Now, his wife did co-sign for the HELOC, but once it's open, either of the marital partners, you get a checkbook that you can write checks out of this HELOC account, and either marital partner can write those checks. So if you just write a check to a hooker for $180,000 or whatever, $130,000, and don't tell the wife, I don't know if that's fraud or just being a jerk, but the point is he did legally, as far as I can tell, obtain this HELOC. That money was used to pay Stormy Daniels. Now, think about this for a second. Whether it's Stormy Daniels or a flight attendant on a private jet, I think, and I don't have any experience in this, but I think that these unscrupulous individuals who want to sort of blackmail billionaires, is 130,000 the number? It sounds low. Elon Musk settled with a flight attendant for 250,000, and the allegations weren't even nearly as public or scandalous and didn't really threaten his role as president or whatever. I don't think investors in Tesla or SpaceX really cared if Elon Musk did or didn't offer to buy a horse for some flight attendant he allegedly showed his member to. But I'm getting too far into the weeds here. The point is, it seemed like an extremely low ask from Stormy Daniels for 130,000. That just seemed like a number that Michael Cohen could write out of this HELOC checking account. So he was coerced by Norm Eisen to set up this whole ridiculous scheme. The other social engineer we had in that mix was Felix Sater, the Russian-American real estate developer, who also just happened to be working in Trump Tower. I think what's happening is Michael Cohen, Felix Sater, these people are all associated with the Clintons. And they say, all right, we're going to go after Trump. So we're going to go rent an office in Trump Tower. We're going to see him in the elevator every day, and we're going to become his lawyer for, whoever it is that's representing Trump. And listen, I really do question the judgment involved in hiring Michael Cohen as your lawyer. But then again, I'm not a billionaire. I've never been sued by, lowlifes. Maybe you need a lowlife lawyer to deal with the lowlifes that are suing you. And there's probably a whole range of lawyers that Trump has. But I do believe that Michael Cohen was coerced into, someone told him, you're going to do this. And then, we'll get you out of jail. We'll make sure you get a podcast. We'll make sure you get 250,000 viewers on Twitter. And just like when the FBI General Counsel, Jim Baker, got kicked out of the FBI as a result of the criminal prosecution against Michael Sussman, when Hillary Clinton's attorney got prosecuted in the John Durham thing, there was a job waiting for him at the nonprofit Lawfare Institute. And then he went to Twitter. So I think that they have ways of making sure that these social engineers have plenty of work, and making sure that the Sal Greco Show and Crowdsource the Truth never rise above a certain level. They can, sort of tamp down one signal while amplifying another. And this is how they manipulate and, as John Shell would say, control the narrative.
Oh, the narrative. That's right. But Jack, is there more to that Michael Cohen story? He just mentioned a podcast, so it's funny because I thought
yeah, it gets even crazier. But first, I just want to say the dollar amount is extra suspicious when you consider that E. Jean Carroll was paid $88 million by Trump.
Right.
There's a large difference between 130,000 and 88 million. So that's reason number one why it's suspicious. Reason number two, and this is something you kind of look at in hindsight as well, Cohen was a personal injury attorney before he was hired by the Trump family. So what did he know about their legal proceedings or what was going on within the family? This is no different than the family from The Godfather hiring Tom Hagen to be their lawyer, right? Like someone who had a completely different background, and all of a sudden he's overseeing all the family business. It looked odd at the time. No one really questioned it because obviously, it wasn't revealed that Trump was paying Stormy Daniels money under the table. But now, in hindsight, it's something that you look at weirdly. Anyway, when Cohen was announcing his new podcast, the most baffling part was who he's going to be hosting it with. And let's take a listen to what he had to say.
My own writing even on my Mea Culpa podcast. This, by the way, this caused me to lose even my production company that I was with for 6 years. I've now found a new one called True Wave Entertainment. In fact, it's given me the opportunity. I'm in the process of working with Rumble right now and Laura Loomer to create a podcast of our own.
Say what now? Say what now? You're working with Rumble and Laura Loomer. Years after you talked about how horrible Trump was, you started an entire podcast about him. Now you're going on with Laura Trump, his daughter-in-law, and she's like sympathizing for you. Oh, I'm so sorry you lost your company. That's such a terrible thing. You're such a good person. It doesn't matter that we were in conflict for all of those years, because we're going to put that aside so that we can convince people that they should now listen to and trust you. And it's also weird in light of everything that's going on right now, because Trump is like, it's like Love Island when they throw people off the island. Trump is throwing people off the MAGA island one by one, whether it be Marjorie Taylor Greene or all these other people. And now he wants to invite someone back into the villa who originally went against him. It doesn't make any sense.
WWE. Jason,
Wait, let's just talk about this for a second, because you guys were the first to tell me about this. So Michael Cohen just said he lost his podcasting company, which, as I understand it, was this thing Midas Touch, which is an American progressive media company. This thing is pretty closely associated with Norm Eisen and the Lawfare Institute and all of those guys. And so, I mean, you know, Michael Cohen, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know which of this is WWE. And I mean, these guys would obviously be angry if Cohen now flipped sides and went back to Trump. It also would make logical sense that Michael Cohen is a spineless rat who just, you know, runs to whoever it is who he thinks he can get him out of trouble, get him a fast buck. I'm surprised at Laura Loomer if she's actually working with him to do anything. But frankly, Rumble, in my opinion, I know you guys are on Rumble. That's another, you know, WWE social engineering piece of nonsense.
What about Gino? Are you kidding me?
Owned by Bongino, exactly. And everybody
Jr. has a show, yeah.
Yeah, and they get paid on there. You know, that's another social media network where, for whatever reason, Crowdsource the Truth can't gain traction. And, you know, I mean, listen, Sal, you and I and Jack, you guys, we all talk about topics that obviously people are interested in. Sal's got unique contacts into the NYPD, his unique experience and understanding of the inner workings of New York City politics, and particularly the police force. And it's just strange to me how certain seemingly idiotic shows get huge followings on these other channels when they're not really doing anything or investigating anything unique, and then other things just can't ever get anywhere.
And Laura Loomer, too. I mean, she's the same person who's telling people that they're not loyal enough to the president because they don't use the same type of toothpaste as him. Now someone who gave him negative publicity for 3.5 years and hosted
that's a little crazy,
spilling all the beans about him, is welcome back onto Island and has to do a podcast with her so that they can inform an audience about what's going on and what happened. And he's obviously not going to be bad-mouthing Trump anymore. So he's totally changed his tune as well. This is
amazing.
Clear manipulation.
Now, speaking of her, do we have this clip of in India with her?
Yeah, let me go grab that.
So just to set the table, the illustrious Laura Loomer went to India. Now, you know, she said a ton of stuff. You want to say anti-Semitic. She talks about everybody being anti-Semitic. She went to India and she said a ton of stuff against Indian people. Really bad things. I can't even look at that face, but there was.
I took it off the screen until we play the video.
Yeah. But there was an answer. Someone there that's Indian from India, that's a conservative, had something to say. So let's play this clip. She's in India, may I add? Just remember that.
And she before I play it too, let me also add that she deleted all of her anti-Muslim, anti-Indian posts before going on the trip, so that people there would just forget about what happened and she could start off with a fresh, new, clean slate, right? So yeah, let's hear what this guy had to say when he was calling her out.
Racist and Islamophobic. And I'm sorry to say that we have Atiti Devo Bhava in this country where we welcome all, but your comments smack of anti-Indianism, worse still, Islamophobia, and even worse, racism, which has no place, ma'am, in today's world. So get real, ma'am. Sorry to say that, but that comments are unacceptable to me as an Indian and as a world citizen. The White House will smell like curry, and speeches will be facilitated via a call center. You then went on to say our country was built by white Europeans, not third world invaders from India. I think you should do more than just express regret. Be racist and Islamophobic.
Yeah, so you guys get the point. I mean, we're calling her out for everything she said, and unlike being the tough guy that she is on the internet when she throws stones because she's looking at a glass house, she's just sitting there with like a little weird grin on her face.
Did she respond at all?
No, not really. I mean, she just said a couple of words like, oh, you know, it was taken out of context. There was a misunderstanding. She was like a deer in headlights the moment that she was confronted about what she posted on the internet, which
she makes
confirms our suspicion,
$200,000.
right? This is just someone who sits behind closed doors on social media all day long and can't take the heat.
What do you think she makes on X payouts, Jason? You think she's in Tim Pool territory, or
I don't know about that. Tim Pool boasts about his 8-figure organization, which, I mean, seems a little bit not a good idea to boast about how much money you make. I don't know how much money Laura makes. And I mean, look, I will say she's done some good work, some good journalism. She's made regrettable comments. That dude was pissed, rightfully so. And yeah, I don't know. A lot of people like to be inflammatory for the sake of being inflammatory. And I don't think that furthers her cause.
No, that was crazy. Yeah, but you know, rightfully so. She deserved it. Sorry, Laura, you deserved it.
In that instance, I agree.
Listen, Jason, you can respect some of the investigative reporting that she's done,
and not approve of other things that she does. That's exactly
she's a good citizen journalist. We can give her credit where credit is due. But we also believe, Jason, that she goes on the internet and tries to fan the flame of conflict over absolutely nothing and tries to antagonize certain crowds. And as a whole, in my opinion, she does way more harm than good and probably won't exist on the internet once Trump is done being president because too many people absolutely hate her.
I don't know about that. She's a strong-willed person with a lot of energy, and I have a feeling Laura's going to be around for a long, long time. She's still pretty young. Sometimes people need a little bit of maturity to understand that they've made poor decisions or mistakes, and you know, hopefully the good things that she does will outweigh the negative comments, and maybe she learned something from getting yelled at by that guy and feeling embarrassed on the internet. Maybe she'll change her approach.
I agree. I mean, but that was well deserved. I guess this is a good time because you gave us a lot of time here, Jason. I'm really I'm really thankful for that. Where can people find you? I know you got your Substack, Jason. I'm gonna put that, mention all that so people know where they could reach you.
Yeah, the best way to support Crowdsource the Truth is on patreon.com or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. People can follow me on X at JG, like Jason Goodman, _CSTT, like Crowdsource the Truth, and you can subscribe there. Sal, thanks to you and Jack for having me on. I really appreciate it, guys. Great show. Fun talking to you guys as always. And on Fridays, people should watch External Affairs with Sal Greco on Crowdsource the Truth.
That's right. Me and Jason, every Friday we do External Affairs. Soon we'll make that a mobile show when Jason comes down here to Florida. So stay tuned for that. I mean, Jack's been on there as well, me, Jack, and Jason. So I have a fun time with Jason. People, you have to understand, if you want to call Jason a conspiracy theorist, I see a lot of people say that. A lot of conspiracies, sometimes there's a lot of truth to them. You just have to investigate things. All Jason likes to do is put information out there, and then you can either speculate or until you find what it is. He's not defamatory, not defaming anyone. And I do the same things. I'm not like completely conspiratorial. I like to throw a lot of evidence there. But, when it comes to social engineering, I think Jason hit the nail on the head. There's a lot going on there. We just showed someone that I don't know how they rose to prominence when they were just banned years ago. There's a lot of questions there, you see, because it's like, you're right. Jack, Jason, myself, we don't have 500,000 followers. We don't have this big bank account, all these people knocking on our doors. But I'm pretty sure I've done a lot more in my career than that person you just saw. And I've been saying a lot of things that are true. Jason literally showed you things within Alan Dershowitz, running into Mamdani, but he doesn't have all these sponsors and all these. But I know someone who does. They went from nothing to 2 million followers, and you need to ask yourself, what's really going on behind that? That's all we're doing here, folks. We like to question things or present evidence. So, Jason, It's great having you here. You look great for the occasion as well. So, and we'll stay in touch. And of course, on Friday, stay tuned. We'll be on with External Affairs. But thank you, Jason, for coming on. It's been an honor.
Yeah, good
Thank you,
stuff,
guys.
Jason.
Thanks very much, guys. Have a great day.
I'm looking forward to seeing your new Lamborghini the next time you're in Florida too. I know you're a big
It's in
Lambo
the
guy.
shop.
Oh, it's in the shop? Okay. Well, hopefully it's repaired by the next time